Hello and welcome to the Worn and Wound podcast. My name is Blake Bettner. We are in studio in Brooklyn today, joined with producer Walter. Walter, how you doing, man? He's got no mic over there. He's waving. Yeah, and let the record show he's got a Bucks hat on, by the way. I'm joined in studio with a special guest today, representing California, representing Standard H. Wesley, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much, man. Thank you guys for having me. Super excited to be here.
Yeah, appreciate you making it out. You live right by the guy that's in the computer here, Thomas. You guys are neighbors. We were just talking about you guys on a little adventure that you had taken on last week's podcast or something like that. Thomas, welcome to the podcast, holding down the fort there in San Diego while Wesley's over here on the East Coast.
Yeah, well, someone has to do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thanks for having me.
Good to see you, man.
So,
likewise.
We will get into who you are, what Standard H is, maybe talk a watch or two along the way, maybe some cars here and there. You're into cars, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Cool. If you like any of those things, great. If not, I'm sorry. maybe we'll get you next week. But before we get into any of that, Thomas, what's on your wrist?
Today I have on my Explorer 14270.
Okay, excellent. Wesley, I see you wearing one of my favorite releases of last year.
Oh,
on your
really?
wrist. Really?
Cool. Yeah, tribute to 3705 IWC.
Yeah. I like that watch a lot. And the case material is light enough that it wears much smaller than it physically is in reality. It's a very easy watch to wear for its size. It's a great strap on there. Full disclosure, my wife works for IWC, so I'm probably a little biased there. But I love that watch. It looks great.
Thank you.
I am wearing a 126710 BLRO. I think I got all that right. That is not a fax machine. That's the Rolex GMT.
Yeah, I think I heard a niner in there somewhere.
Is that a niner? So we've all got. Wow, look at this. This is a pretty impressive little lineup of watches that we got here. I like this lineup. Walter, were you wearing a watch over there? I'm not even going to ask him. Oh, my God.
It looks great with that Bucks hat on.
Yeah. All right. He's actually got a Knicks hat on, and he's giving us glares right now. But we are in New York, so that's allowed. Wesley, what is Standard H?
It's a automotive and travel inspired line of apparel and accessories primarily. I also do a podcast that kind of comes with the subtext of For Those with Drive, which is sort of a double entendre for entrepreneurship. So primarily explores the life and careers of entrepreneurs and anybody who's been instrumental in growing a company. So from that perspective, it's, you don't have to necessarily be a founder, but, somebody that's been on kind of the uptick of a business perhaps. Mm-hmm. And taking that a step further, it's not industry specific either, just for selfish reasons of not getting bored myself.
Sure.
So it's apparel guys, it's car guys, it's a few women on there too. Mm-hmm. Trying to get more women, but actually some of them are like denying me the opportunity because they're like, I don't want to be on it, and I don't know about cars, and it's it's not just about that. So really, it's about the person.
Yeah, definitely. And I know there's plenty of ladies into cars, legit. So we got to get some of them on too, right? I was just listening to Spike Ferenston and Johnny Lieberman. Had on a gal, I forget her name. She was awesome though. I think she was a photographer. Anyways, it's an awesome space to be in, and you're doing really cool stuff. I looked through some of your podcast guests. I see a lot of familiar faces on there. A lot of people that have been on our podcast. A lot of people that. Well, it's a small world once you get to a certain point, and there's a lot of really great people here, like the Jason Heatons of the world, Waco I saw on there.
Yeah.
We need to get Waco on here, on this podcast.
Yeah, we definitely do.
Yeah, he was kind of a white whale. But yeah, like there's tons of overlap, and, I like to call my apparel elevated casual for the discerning car and watch lovers. So, there's tons of overlap when you bring in cars, watches, and apparel. The Matt Horanicks of the world, the Wacos of the world, people like that. And it's been a ton of fun, very gratifying. There's just multiple levels of creativity that I tap into. And, thinking outside of the box and that kind of thing.
Very cool. So how long have you been doing this?
Well, it started as a side hustle in 2015.
Okay.
I come from kind of an extensive retail background, mostly managing and working in sales and management for a litany of companies.
Very cool. And you are an automotive enthusiast, a watch enthusiast, so you kind of found a way to bring your pastime passions into your everyday, day-to-day work life, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I've always wanted to start an apparel brand.
Yeah.
For what reason, I really can't tell you. That was just the initial passion, even though alongside of cars and watches.
Yeah.
But cars and watches watches actually probably came third of the group. But it was primarily just I wanted to start an apparel brand, and then also just finding points of differentiation, because obviously it's a saturated market, and just like little tiny details and nuances to the apparel that I could add that would allude to, the aficionado of, cars and watches and stuff like that.
Did it start, were you like, I don't see anything out there that I like or that fits me, that fits my style, or the vision that I have, or the quality that I'm looking for, I'm just going to go make it myself?
There's only a tiny bit of that. There's tons of great stuff out there, obviously. But for me, it was really about liking a lot of different types of styles and not finding it at my stuff's not cheap, obviously, but it is more affordable than some of the stuff that I would otherwise love to own.
Sure.
So it's really, and then obviously overseeing the manufacturing process and like where things are made and, how they're made and like those types of relationships being forged. Like, I don't know what other brands do, but that's the way I do it. Keep it close knit.
What would you call the style?
Elevated casual is kind of how I describe it.
Elevated casual. Okay.
Nicer versions of fabrics presented in kind of a modern aesthetic, but inspired by kind of classic styles, timeless styles, vintage cars.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thomas is pretty elevated casual.
He owns some Standard H.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he can tell you.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Just speaking from experience, I have a couple of the Avantis, and they live up to the hype. I kind of heard about Wesley talking about them on the podcast, and I heard other people, friends of the podcast, talking about his t-shirts, and I ended up taking a chance on one and purchasing one from him and hand delivered. After we met up
That's
for the
some
first
service.
time.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
for sure.
Wasn't the first time, won't be the last.
No, there you go. But yeah, man, it's definitely something that something to experience when you have in hand, and just similar to a watch, when you have it in hand, you just know that, wow, this is like really well made. And kind of like the highlights of it was the deep pocket where, if you were to put like other pocket tees out there, you put your pair of sunglasses in there and they fall out. I mean, this one is as advertised, like I've worn this t-shirts riding my bike and what have you, and traveling, and sure enough, like nothing falls out of those pockets. That's unless if someone had me like, flip me upside down and just like kind of start shaking me and whatnot. Yeah, exactly. But man, it's solid product.
I'm a bum. I got my sunglasses tucked into my
stretching out that neck, man. We got to get you away from that.
Yes, I am stretching out the neck. Yes.
Why
did I think of that?
That's a pet peeve of yours.
Because I thought of that.
This is a very important neckline, right? That's got to be maintained.
Yeah.
Now I like this crossover, and we've had a few people from other apparel brands on before. Mike Maher, a good friend from Taylor Stitch, the Topo guys, Topo Design. There's something really interesting there, and I found that a lot of those guys are also like into watches a certain degree as well. I think. They're obviously it's kind of falls into the like accessory realm, and I don't know, as a guy, it's not a whole ton of accessories I feel like that are like, okay, this is cool. I guess there could be. You can knock yourself out and
you can get Mr. T with it. You can do whatever you want.
I can't pull that off.
No, I'm not that guy.
I mean, I don't even have my wedding ring on. I'm ashamed to say, my wife's not listening to this. But yeah, I'm not a big like jewelry guy or anything. So I think about like how this stuff goes, like all fits together. And I even think about like when I'm looking at watches that I like, and I think, would that really fit in with my style?
Sure.
Even like nice, I see formal watches. I'm like, oh, that's beautiful. I put, dress it down with a nice strap, a different, suede strap or something like that.
Yep.
But would I really wear it when I think about like what I wear every single day? So I usually tend towards watches that, like, even if they're nicer, like I have to feel like I can wear it at any time. Like any day with pretty much like whatever I'm going to wear.
Yeah.
I don't get dressed up all that often. I like to get dressed up, but even when I do, I still kind of keep it like a somewhat elevated casual.
Right.
So I want like my watch collection to kind of feel like at any moment it could be called up and it's not going to look like silly or ridiculous or anything like that. So do you deal with a lot of watch guys and I'm guessing in your business and people who think that way about their apparel and about their watches and how they kind of think about them coexisting together?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, we're all nerds about details, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like that's my complete approach to design and or manufacturing, with like hiding the seams and things like that. Like, I know it might be a stretch for some people, but like I really do look at this as like the car body panels coming together and that little gap that you see in like higher end cars have a narrower gap. It's usually parallel. It's not going to be askew. You don't see stitching. You have no idea how those panels are on the car, do you? Like they're just there.
Yeah.
There's no bolts that you see. And that was kind of what I enjoyed about producing these and a lot of the apparel going forward, is that hiding that stitching, make it look less industrial, I guess, and a little cleaner look, a cleaner neck, things of that nature. But yeah, it's all about the details, always.
So tell me,
And speaking of,
go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, no, and again, speaking about, kind of like how these seams kind of are akin to like the body panel of a car. The logo as well is kind of automotive inspired as well, right?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so I also
I noticed right away.
The t-shirts that I do have with the logo that's like front and center on the chest and or the hats that I produce. Yeah, it is a 4-speed, shift knob pattern, and that's how the name of the brand came about. Frankly, is you would refer to the shift gate pattern as it shifts on a standard H. So that's kind of where the name came from. Yeah.
Very cool. So tell us about cars. Like, you're into that kind of stuff. Like, how does that tie in? And like, you associate with the kind of, I know that there's a real rich car culture there in Southern California.
Sure.
As well. I've got a lot of friends into that scene that are doing awesome stuff, and the kind of creativity on display there I think is really cool. I've brought some of them into the watch collecting world, and I feel like there's a lot of kind of interesting overlaps in these spaces. So what part of the car culture do you kind of find yourself occupying?
Yeah, I mean, there's like the cars and coffees that you go to, right, to like explore cars and like also look at details and how like I can tie certain things in, as Thomas alluded or mentioned earlier. Kind of my hero product that's really just come out in the last year is called the Avant T. So that's sort of Audi speak for a wagon, right? So the A4 Avant or the RS6 Avant or, what have you, really was kind of just the perfect daily driver with the right amount of utility, right? So like that, hence the pocket having the utilitarian aspect of, or the utility aspect of the shirts. I'm wearing a long sleeve currently. That has not come out yet.
Okay.
It is coming out very, very soon, being produced. So
we'll blur your body on the video.
Or just blur my arms. Just
blur your arms.
Blur my arms, yeah. So, but the short sleeves are already out and on the site, and that's what Thomas thankfully owns. And they've been doing really well. There's a gusset, too, that I kind of borrowed, I'll say, from an ice climbing jacket. So when you lift your arms, it doesn't lift the garment.
Very cool.
Is it a problem that you never thought you had? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I feel like we've all been on that wrong side of the equation, right? Where like somebody's putting something into the overhead and all of a sudden you got a belly button in your ear. Like it's just not cool.
It's not a good look.
Kind of mitigating that to some degree.
Yep.
So that's been kind of a characteristic trait of the design for the garments. But so naming is car related, the seams kind of mimicking car body panels, the pocket, utility, Avant. It's all sort of cohesive in that sense.
Mm-hmm. What about, so what do you drive every day?
I have a GTI 2017. I've done some work to it.
Okay.
I had it for maybe a couple weeks before it was like lowered, wheels and tires, exhaust, different aesthetic changes, swapped the taillights for European LED. Basically, my approach was, I want this car to look like I thought it should coming off the manufacturing floor.
Okay.
And historically I've been stopped a lot, being like, "What trim is this?" Because I know it's a Mark 7.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look normal.
I really like automotive, the modding scene that takes that approach. That looks like maybe it could have cut them off the factory line that way. Yeah. It's kind of it's holding the original design, vision, what have you, of the car, and kind of like,
I do it with watches. Yeah. Like, this isn't the OEM strap, but it is an OEM strap for their perpetual calendar.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. But this looks way better than the smooth calfskin.
Yes. Yeah. It looks great on there. Well, that's interesting. So, do you go to a lot of the car meets and the cars and coffees and that kind of thing? I know that there's kind of like pockets of, the guys that are into like the Japanese scene over here. There's guys that like the vintage Porsche guys, and there's the high end guys, and the Jeep guys, and the Land Rover guys, and all this kind of stuff. But I think one thing that I really like, though, at least in my experience, when I lived in Northern California, a lot of parts of the culture would kind of come together, and like it didn't matter where you fell. Like, your enthusiasm was that enthusiasm, and you'd like learn about other people's rides, or how they went about their collecting modifications or anything like that. And there's kind of a common respect amongst all of them. Sure. Whether it was a GTI, RX-8, shout out Blake Malin, he's got a nice RX-8, or the Ferrari guys, or the whatever. Like they're the kind of passion that you see people exude around this stuff kind of gets you excited about it, even if it's not exactly like your thing.
Well, there's some high school cafeteria vibe going on too, because like I feel like everybody is intermixed and you're all in the same room in the cafeteria, but you kind of navigate and congregate to your crew, right? So like you go to a Cars and Coffee, which I go to everything, by the way, to answer your question. I'm agnostic when it comes to this types of stuff. I love Land Rover. I love the old school Jeeps, CJ5s from when I was a kid and things like that. And, I'm a huge Porsche fan. You'd see that if you look at my content. My first love is Ferrari, love F1. So like I'm all kind of over the, all over the map. But yeah, even at Cars and Coffee, even though there's like a plethora of brands and, the JDM scene and all that stuff, you still see the Mustang guys parking with the Mustang guys, the Porsche guys park with the Porsche guys. And it's like, cool, we're all here. Yeah. But it's kind of high school cafeteria.
Yeah. But like every now and then there'll be one that's like, oh, that's really cool. Like, I don't really like Mustangs, but look at that one. That's pretty nice. Yeah, and you go over there, you talk to them, like, oh, those are pretty nice guys, actually. And, maybe I had some stereotypes about this or that. And,
and I think to piggyback on your point, it's a great way to learn. Because, like, if you see a 997 911 parked next to a 991 911, you're like, oh, great. Like, these are all Porsche guys. But, like, you could start to see the difference. It's just like watches, right? There's, like, proportions that are different. Width, size, height,
except for the 996 folks, they go over in the corner.
Right, the fried eggs.
No, just kidding. Yeah. Just kidding, 996 lovers. We love you too.
That's all good. It's all good.
No, that's interesting, and there's a lot there to kind of learn from the people that have been doing it a long time, or that are into like a slightly different area of the same space.
Sure.
Like in a really deep way. Yep. And you didn't realize like, oh, that goes really deep too.
Well, even in the GTI world, especially, because like mine is, I guess, arguably, like it looks German because of the European lights and stuff like that. But then you get like the dudes who'll slam it, right? Or it's on airbags and like tiny rims and like it's just multitudes of variants and like. But that's what it's all about. Is like your enthusiasm doesn't necessarily have to be the same as mine. It could be different, just like in watches, right? Yeah. Like you could be super into minimal time only and like, oh my God, don't even have a seconds hand on this dial, right? Like. That's not traditional. Or you could have perpetual calendar chronographs, which is just like every bell and whistle,
Yeah. So you mentioned you're an F1 fan. We are, of course, going into a new season here.
Right.
With new regulations taking place, and a lot of the cars have been recently introduced. I happen to think that the Ferrari is maybe the best looking of the bunch.
Oh, yeah. So sweet.
It's a nice looking deal there they got.
I'm
pretty hot on Carlos Sainz too. Like I think he's a quality.
I love that guy.
Driver. I mean, okay, Leclerc. He's the hot guy. He's good looking. He's all that kind of stuff. But Sainz,
Carlos is no slouch.
No, I'm telling you. Yeah,
he's a golfer.
He's second driver to nobody. He's a good driver. I feel good about Ferrari going into the season. Do you think we're going to see...
shout out the guys who are in McLaren as well, Ricardo and
Danny Rick
and Alonso.
Danny Ricardo. Like those are the guys that out of anybody on the grid that I'd probably want to go have a beer with the most.
100%.
Oh,
And
for
probably
sure.
have the
No
most
doubt.
fun with, right? Do you think that we are going to see another
Battle?
Mercedes Red Bull duke it out this season?
I think so.
Okay.
I really do. And I'm always hopeful that Ferrari will compete, but I've been let down in the last several years.
Yeah.
Um,
They finished out really strong last year though, against McLaren coming in.
I don't know. Like, my whole theory on the success of Mercedes kind of lies, and this is complete conjecture, mind you. I think it's really predicated on like their AMG program, having spent so many years in that turbo engine production.
Yeah.
That like, I think it came out of left field when F1 went to turbos, and Ferrari's probably like, oh shit.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
like-
and Mercedes were in a good spot. So,
Yeah. And they,
like,
R and D already kind of, if not on the forefront, they're at least adjacent. And
Yeah.
I think maybe just had like half a step, you know,
and that's all it takes in
it takes
Formula
a
One.
tenth of a second.
And it still looks like they have the tidiest packaging for their power unit this year, even too. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Any thoughts on Michael Massey?
Yeah, I don't know.
Good riddance.
Yeah.
Okay. Any thoughts on Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, Bahrain?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Let the boys play. That's what
Okay.
I say. And if it's fair, like keep it consistent. You know, I think that's
Yeah,
kind of the
consistency
thing.
I think was the biggest
right.
issue with some of the stuff last year. Good track limits here, but not there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that consistency goes for everything.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, that's right. No, we're getting pretty close to the 2022 season starting out. We won't go too far down that rabbit hole if you've already left. Sorry. If you've stuck around, thank you for that. I'm a big Formula One fan
Right.
as well. I love getting up on Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings and watching the qualifying and the races with my son, who started to like really get into it as well. So,
Oh, nice.
so it's kind of a fun world. And it was fun to watch all the cars kind of get launched and all the drama. Is Lewis going to come back? And all this kind of stuff. So,
And you've been into it for quite a while, and I just started getting into it because of Netflix.
Yeah.
You know, like
Oh, really?
I
Okay.
started
Such a great
watching
show.
the Driver Survive series, and I'm like, man, all this like drama, like and like politics that goes into like within each team, and then like against other teams and whatnot. Like, it's really interesting. I mean,
so
like,
I've not watched that show
have
at
you
all.
not?
No, but
Really?
my feeling is that there's less of that than they make out to be. Like, I think that the drivers are
Oh, yeah,
actually all like friendly.
They
and
are
there's not
making a
that
TV
much,
show at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
But if it's getting like new people into it, then great. And
Well-
I think it's a really interesting sport that more people should be into.
And I think they have. Like,
Yeah.
I think the population in the United States that has grown as a result, as you said, Thomas, like,
right.
it's super important to grow in that way. I mean, the watch world's exploded, right, during COVID because everybody's at home and can read stuff like, Worn and Wound and such. So it's kind of like, and you got to start somewhere. And where do you start? What better place to start than something that isn't really cars going around in circle, rather the drama and stuff like that. So like, my wife will actually watch Drive to Survive, but there's not a chance she's watching a race. You know what I mean? So it's like that function too.
Yeah, Charles Leclerc is pretty good looking. So we got to watch.
There's plenty of
that's how we get
Charles to go around for the wives out there.
Yeah. So we can bring it back to watches. How did you end up with this guy? Those are difficult to get even today.
Yeah. So interesting story, just due to the fact
I
that,
pointed to his
my
tribute to
wrist,
3705.
right. Yeah.
By the way, yes.
So the thing about it is like I was kind of on the hunt for an all black watch that wasn't a G-Shock, because I own an all black G-Shock. I wear a lot of black. I wear a lot of gray, and I just wanted something that kind of fit that aesthetic. Really, I'm very much an aesthetically driven collector. If I even call myself a collector, I just buy watches because I like them. It's not like I'm trying to achieve anything, which, and really, honestly, the release of this watch almost went by me completely. Like, I guess I just wasn't paying attention and or saw the release and thought, okay, another 43 millimeter, 44 millimeter. Well, it's not, it's 41. And so after kind of marinating on the idea of this all black thing, like several months ago, I went into my local AD and I said, Giorgio, like, hey, I'm here. What do you have in all black? And he goes, well, look, I got nothing. You know, I have the Spitfire chronograph, that's stainless steel case, beautiful, kind of like the Fotina dial and the green fabric strap, which subsequently I also got for this watch because that green strap's going to look dynamite. But he was like, I don't know, man. Let me pull out the catalog. So it was like flipping through the pages, and he's like, oh my God, like I totally forgot this tribute to 3705. And when he pulled it out, I was thinking 3705. And then I remember seeing the Jack Forrester thing, like, and at any rate, I was like, this is perfect.
Yeah.
Because the original 3705 from the 90s, like the pushers were still stainless, the case back was still stainless. Like I wanted everything, you know, to use a 10-year-old term, murdered out, you know, but like, I just was like, you know, it's perfect. And then having tried on the Spitfire chronograph, I knew the size and I knew the fit, and I knew it actually somewhat visually wear smaller given that it's all black, right, than the Spitfire. So
yeah, and the steel case is much heavier, obviously. It's not like a small case, but titanium helps immensely. The originals were, of course, 39 millimeters, the 3705, and the 3706, which was the steel version of that, which I own. Yeah, I love this watch. It's super light. It's great looking, and like it's black, but it's not like, it's an interesting like tone of black. It's kind of like a dark gunmetal almost. Yeah, and it's still super legible. And I love the blocked hour hand. Yeah, I like these hands considerably more than I like the broadsword hands. And I own the collective version of this watch. It's steel, but it's 41 millimeters. This case, it helps a lot being in 41.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned the handset, because like for me, I'm a handset lover. Like I don't even own a Moon watch. I got the first Omega in space because I'm just in love with those alpha hands. And I can't be convinced otherwise. I just think it's a better looking watch.
It's a nice looking watch, and some people just prefer the straight lug case to it as well. I mean, I think it's a totally different vibe than the traditional quote unquote traditional kind of Speedmaster look that people think of. So this is what you wear every day.
I mean, it's been my daily since I got it. That's for sure. But it's funny because like it was kind of like an online only release to some degree, I guess, unless you got it at the forefront. I'm not sure because that was, you know, approaching a year ago. But like, so when I called IWC's customer service, they said, well, that's interesting because you just got the last allocation for North America. And I was like, either you're lying and creating urgency or this is crazy timing. So I was like, I'm not here to ask questions. I want the watch, please. So that's kind of how the cookie crumbled.
Yeah, I think those are still pretty tricky to get your hands on right now. What else do you find in your collection?
Yeah, I got married in a 36 millimeter OP no date black dial. Thomas has seen
that was a great size.
Yeah, great watch.
It's perfect
for the OP. I like the 36 millimeter.
Yeah, and actually I took the bracelet off for the ceremony and put it on a black lizard strap.
Oh, okay.
Just for a little texture, dress it up a little bit. But then the next morning I took the strap right off, put it on the bracelet because I was in the pool and
it's a good bracelet.
Swimming with it. And so I mean that's there. The first Omega in space, as I said. Thomas, what do I own? I've got a Batman.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Listening to your recent podcast as well, from Want to Buy a Watch, right?
Yeah, the 5513. Yeah. So vintage sub. It's technically not my first vintage piece, but it's the first vintage piece that I bought. Coincidentally, the morning of my wedding, my grandfather gifted me his two-tone Datejust from the early 80s. And
nice.
I'll be honest, man. I mean, that man is my hero. Thank God he's still around. But it's, I mean, that if there's one watch that's not going, I'd sell my wedding watch before I'd sell this one. I'm here to tell you.
No, that's great. That's good. So it sounds like you've got some real kind of classics in the collection.
Yeah, you know, like, and it's less about like, these are the watches you should buy kind of thing. Because like I do like the details, right? Like, I mean, the Spitfire versus this one, or, you know, the first Omega in space versus a Moon watch and things like that. So like, I like to learn about the thing and then pick out my favorite version of the thing. So like my 5513, for example, is a Mark II dial, which if for the nerds out there is like, there's 4, I think technically 5 variants, I think, of the 5513.
With a couple of 0.5s in there.
Yeah. So there's like all these little asterisks and, you know, what have you. So for me, I like to dive in and really do check into the details. And
that's a deep hole to fall into.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
But it's fun. And I think there's no shame in that, having like a Like, okay, it's, these are the classics, the kind of basics or whatever. But I think there's something to be said for that. They get that way for a reason.
Yeah. I think the only hole in my collection really is like on the dressier side.
Yeah.
Like proper dress watches. I ordered a black dial dress watch that I don't know. Should I share or not? I don't know if I should share.
Thomas, do you know?
No, I don't. I actually don't.
It?
No, I don't. I think you were just trying to keep it hush hush, even when we met up the other week. So,
well, it's also my first independent, so I've got a Kudoke on order.
Oh, okay,
which I'm excited
Congratulations,
about.
That's exciting.
Yeah. So shout out to Passion Fine Jewelry in Solana Beach, Tim Jackson, the man.
Yeah, shout out Tim Jackson.
Tim Jackson.
And it just seems like you've you kind of have like a nice a collection from established brands, but here in Worn and Wound we also cover like kind of the the micro brand space, and I've seen that you've also hooked up with Bradley Price from Autodromo.
Oh, sure.
Are there any other watches in that space or brands that kind of like caught your eye at all?
Yeah, I mean, big shout out to Bradley. He's the man. What a sweetheart of a guy. His designs are killer. He just released that latest Group B. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago?
Yeah,
it's so great.
It was the aqua and the other blue. I can't remember that.
Corsica.
Yeah,
we just put up a big 20-minute interview with him on the site yesterday too,
cool.
for the release.
Yeah, I have a Group B. I've got, of course, the black dial with the white.
That's a good one though, and that's like the hardest to.
I love
find.
that piece.
Those in the night stages you never see.
The bracelet's so good.
Yeah.
And then, I'm just trying to think. And then Seiko. Like, I love Seiko. I've had a SKX 009 for the better part of 10 years. I use it as my surf watch forever. And then the SPB 143 came out, which, of course, is a dark gray dial with white.
Yeah.
Super adventurous with my colors over here. But yeah.
You're consistent though.
Hey, I'm nothing if not consistent, right?
Going back to that, you said that you use the 009 as your surf watch, the SKX, and I use the 013 as my surf watch. You know what? Like ever since I started writing for Worn and Wound and started to incorporate this like kind of outdoor kind of like outdoor activity and using your watch for that.
Yeah.
And every time I mention surfing with a watch, I get a lot of flack for it in the comments. And again, like, maybe I shouldn't be reading the comments or not, but it's just, I always hear like, why are you like, who wears a watch when they surf? And I'm like, well, dude, I gotta tell the time when I'm out there. I gotta know like how long I'm out there for, right? Like,
so they have a complaint that you're wearing a watch at all?
Exactly. Yeah. At all. Yeah.
Wait, why? People wear surf watches all of the time.
That's a normal thing. That's a normal thing.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like that's like the one thing that I say
I've never surfed before ever in my.
Yeah, and what better watch to wear surfing and in the ocean than a dive watch? Yeah. Like I don't get it. Like,
exactly. That's just
I would argue like why can't you go deeper with that watch? like I don't. Yeah, that beef doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Sometimes when you're surfing, you just feel the need to kind of like go deeper, just take a dive down in there, see what's poke around a little bit.
Yeah, let's try to waterlog this thing,
Right.
I like that. We preach that around here. Like, wear your watches for your activities. You're only building those memories in them, and you're making them mean a lot more to you.
100%.
In the first place, like I think you can have a collection full of beautiful watches that sit in the watch box, and that's great, but they might not mean much to you at the end of the day. I think your grandfather's watches that you end up wearing, you're going to create. Even if you don't mean to, memories in them.
Totally.
You're going to make that watch mean a lot more to you.
And that was like the conversation we had when we met up was, we kind of, we linked up, we were on our bikes, bicycles. And then,
no vroom in those.
Right, yeah. So, and then, like, again, you were like, Wes was wearing his G-Shock. And then I was wearing the my Seiko quartz watch. And yeah, I mean, you just like kind of grab what's kind of appropriate for that and you just use it. And then like, again, the other argument is like the dress watch, right? Like, yeah, I mean, if you wear a dress watch all the time, you just, put it aside when it's not appropriate. And, you just put it back on when you're not going to be doing that type of stuff.
Or dress it down.
Or dress it down.
There you go.
Take it out of the house.
I like this concept. Like,
I love
how far can you go? Like, how far can you take this down? We just, an hour ago, we had a full platinum Langa and Zona Datograph perpetual calendar in our hands.
Beast.
Gorgeous. Beast. Yeah. Absolutely heavy. How far can we take that down? How far can we knock that down?
I mean, if you're in San Diego,
all the way,
sandals, shorts,
all the way,
V-neck T-shirt.
Even on that bracelet, you could. I mean, it was heavy. This is heavy. This is a lot of metal, people. But I think putting like a gray suede strap on there with no visible stitch, I think would do wonders, and it would look totally low key almost.
Well, and you want to talk about a watch of like when you know or if you know. As much as I hate that expression,
I know. Like, we try to stay away from that too.
Yeah,
but it does put it on that level. It's like a. I think more people would kind of give it a glance and not really think much of it. But if you know, you know. I'm sorry to be that guy. I'll be the one to say it.
Are you cool or are you not?
Yes, like come on, get with it.
What an underlying tone.
But I like this concept, and I think that's obviously an extreme end of it. But I think there's a lot of room there in between. This is why the Daytona on the Oyster Flex. I love that contradiction.
Yeah, sure.
The
platinum.
Or even the precious metal Daytonas you can get on the Oyster Flex, which I like that idea. Shout out to Hublot, OG, pairing the precious metals with the rubber straps,
right?
The MDM dials there. So do you pay attention to the watch world? Do you could follow new releases and certain brands and we're coming up to Watches and Wonders here at the end of the month? Are you going to be keen on to see what's coming out here from these brands?
Yeah, I've always loosely followed. So I can't. It's just not possible for me to see everything or read everything about everything and know every detail about every watch, that kind of thing. But I definitely enjoy seeing kind of new releases and stuff. And actually, the year I got my OP No Date was the year that the Pepsi came back out on Jubilee. So what's funny is I was actually looking for a Rolex on behalf of a friend of mine. There was something, it was the Wimbledon dial. And he was looking for it. So I called my guy and I was like, hey, listen, I'm looking for this thing for my friend. And by the way, I just was on this website. What's up with this OP No Date? I've never seen this before. He goes, well, it's not even out yet. Mm-hmm. All the public relations and stuff was all Pepsi. So it completely flew under the radar in 2018. Yeah. And then, of course, the colorful dials over the last year or two. Yeah. That's a different story. But
But it started with the white and the black.
Right.
In 39 and 36. Yeah. They don't make the 39 anymore.
I wish they did. That's so good.
The 36?
Yeah, I love it. But to your point of do I follow? Yes, but much like those people in 2018, I only saw the Pepsi, right? And I didn't even realize that the other one really came out until I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I wanted for my wedding. And, it worked out, thankfully. But it also helped with the allocation because he was like, yeah, nobody knows this thing's coming out.
Yeah. No, I like that. I would like to get back to those
days. Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah.
Any predictions, hopes for Rolex or any other brands from this year?
Well, so I'm like I said, I'm the only real hole is dress pieces. So now I'm just all I'm looking at now are dress watches.
Saxonia 1815.
I tried them on yesterday. And then I've tried on the Vacheron Traditionnel. I've tried on, I have yet to try on the Cartier tank, and that's been on the list for years, literally years, and I've never tried one on. I've tried on the quartz ones, the smaller variants, or the tank. The Santos Dumont.
Yep.
That one's great.
Yeah, love the Santos.
I think Stephen Pulverint's got that one. It's great.
Shout out Steve.
Yeah. SJP.
SJP.
My eyeballs are just almost fixated, right, on dress watches. But I don't predictions though. I really don't know.
What would you like to see? What would you be like? Oh my gosh, I gotta sell all my watches and buy that.
Well, to a certain degree, those kind of already exist. I would get, a 1815 chronograph, for example.
Love the 1815.
Or an Acrivia, or something like that. I'm a huge chronograph guy, but I'm also kind of that understated type of mentality too, of a Acrivia does so well.
What do you think about Porsche design?
The watches?
The recent one that just came out. It was the
Chronograph
the
1.
GP. Right.
They made a GP Ice Race edition of it.
That one's sick. Ben Clymer picked one of those up. I saw. I think there was only 50, right?
Ben Clymer.
Well, that's the only photo I've ever really seen of like on the wrist. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I haven't seen any
That's
other
mine.
wrist shots. Oh, so you have one?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah,
I'm in royal.
Blake Bentner.
I'm in the presence of royalty over here.
Blake Bentner.
This
I didn't know Ben was getting one, and I saw him post it.
This is unbelievable. Like I mean, obviously I'm biased with this thing. Throw on is it red or dark orange? Red?
It's red.
It's
and
red,
it's a sharp contrast. It's absolutely beautiful.
It's so good, man. So Thomas, to answer your question, I mean, I love it. I think it's great. I'm kind of a Bradley Price biased guy. Like I think he does automotive inspired timepieces as good, if not better than everyone. Like in my personal
totally.
opinion.
And they're totally original too. Like he's doing
then that's
his
what
own
I'm
thing.
saying,
Yeah,
right?
we love
Like-
what Bradley's doing.
I like things that are kind of adjacent and you can tell they're inspired by. I don't like things that are just completely on the nose.
Yeah.
Like I like to solicit the double take. I like somebody who's thought about something for 2 seconds. You know what I mean? Not just like, oh my God, a martini stripe. Let's do it. Like, I don't know. I just...
So the 1815 chronograph comes. There's three different. There's a Mark I, a Mark II, and a Mark III dial. The Mark II is a bit simpler. It doesn't have the tachymeter scale around the side. So
right.
And those are on the secondhand market the most approachably priced. I take it. So I would suggest looking in that direction if you want a toned down 1815.
Yeah, but they're still what, $50,000?
Well, they're still not cheap, but you know. I bet you could get one for maybe under.
Well, maybe
you
can tell me when that happens, and we can talk.
We'll each get one when they. I mean, obviously, we'll all get one if they're under $50,000. Yeah, we all need one. In that case,
peanuts.
So, Wesley, where can people find you and your goods?
Standard H _ on Instagram. Standard H _ podcast, because I also have the podcast that I mentioned. And then standard-h.com is the website. And then if you want to email me, info@standard-h.com.
Yeah, if you'll notice, you'll see a lot of familiar faces on there, like I mentioned earlier, to check out the podcast. You got a lot of watch people on there, a lot of industry watch people, even some new YouTube type people on there too. So there's a little bit of everything, it seems like. And then, of course, the automotive people. So check that out if you're interested. And, of course, the clothing.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Check out the clothing as well. It looks great. I hear they have a long sleeve version of the Avanti coming out. And you heard it here. It's the RS6 of shirts.
You're right. Yeah.
So you can't go wrong.
Absolutely.
Wesley, it's been a huge pleasure having you on the podcast today.
Thanks so much for having me, man. Like this is, I could be here for 2 more hours, but no, that's
we don't
not
have
how this
beer,
works, does it?
For that, we go to the pub and keep talking, and you know.
I'm down.
Yeah. So
thanks for having me, though. In all honesty.
Yeah. No, it's been great. Thomas, thanks for joining in.
Of course,
listeners. Sorry for a slightly divergent topic set today. I hope you enjoyed it. If not, you can send your complaints to Thomas.
All
right, tune in. We've got some other exciting guests coming up. And of course, we have Watches and Wonders at the end of the month. So we will have a lot of news. I think maybe even we'll try to do a live podcast. Is that possible? You can do live podcast recording? I don't know. It'd be fun to take people's questions while we record.
I think YouTube, if you have like the active chat.
Maybe we'll do a live YouTube thing on there. I don't know. We'll figure it out and we'll share that with you. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, complaints, leave them in the comments below and we will be sure to address them or file them away as needed. Thank you for listening, and until next time, take care.
Thanks, guys.